The morning rain tapped against the windows of Luna's Café like tiny fingers asking to come inside. Emma Carter sat at her usual table in the corner, her fingers moving quickly across the raised dots on her braille reader. The coffee shop was her favorite place in all of Seattle. She knew every sound here, from the hiss of the espresso machine to the creak of the old wooden floors. Emma had been coming to this cafe for 3 years now, ever since she started her studies at the university. She was 23 years old and working on her thesis about languages. Her dream was to become an expert in talking to alien beings, if humans ever met any from space. Most people thought this was silly, but Emma believed that one day humans would need people who could build bridges between different kinds of life. The cafe was busy this Tuesday morning. Emma could hear the usual sounds of people talking, coffee cups clinking, and the soft music playing from the speakers. She smiled as she listened to 2 students at the next table arguing about their homework. A businessman was typing loudly on his laptop near the window. The barista, Jake, was making jokes with customers as he served their drinks. Emma loved being here because she felt normal. People didn't stare at her white cane or speak to her in loud, slow voices like she couldn't understand. At Luna's Cafe, she was just another customer who liked good coffee and a quiet place to work. She was reading about ancient languages when she heard the door chime ring. Heavy footsteps walked across the wooden floor, but these steps were different from the usual customers. They were slow and careful, as if the person was trying not to make noise. Emma tilted her head slightly, listening. The footsteps stopped at the back of the cafe. Where the darkest booth sat in the corner, Emma went back to her reading, but she couldn't help noticing that the new customer was very quiet. Most people ordered right away, but this person just sat there. She could hear the faint sound of breathing, deeper and slower than normal. There was something strange about it, but she couldn't figure out what. 20 minutes later, Emma reached for her coffee cup and knocked it over by accident. The ceramic mug hit the floor with a loud crash, and hot coffee splashed everywhere. The whole cafe went quiet for a moment. Emma felt her cheeks get red with embarrassment. "Oh no," she said softly, reaching down to find the broken pieces. "Careful," said a voice beside her. "Let me help." Emma looked up in surprise. She hadn't heard anyone walk over to her table. The voice was deep and smooth, with an accent she couldn't place. It sounded like English, but with a musical quality that made her think of distant mountains and old stories. "Thank you," Emma said as she heard the person carefully picking up the broken pieces. "I'm so clumsy sometimes." "Everyone has accidents," the voice replied. "No harm done." Emma heard the person stand up and walk to the counter. She listened as he spoke to Jake, asking for a cloth and offering to pay for the broken cup. His voice was polite but formal, like he wasn't used to casual conversation. "Really, you don't need to pay for that," Emma called out. "It was my fault." The stranger returned to her table with a cloth. "It's already taken care of. May I sit?" "I don't want to leave you with a mess." Emma nodded, curious about this helpful stranger. She heard him sit down across from her and begin wiping up the spilled coffee. His movements were careful and precise. "I'm Emma," she said. "Cale," he replied after a small pause. "It's nice to meet you, Emma. That's an unusual name. Is it Irish?" "Something like that," Cale said quietly. "I'm not from around here," Emma smiled. "I could tell by your accent. Where are you from?" There was another pause before Cale answered. "Very far away. A place you probably haven't heard of. Try me. I love learning about different places and cultures. It's part of what I study." "What do you study?" Cale asked, and Emma noticed he had changed the subject. "Languages, mostly. I want to be a linguist. I'm especially interested in how different groups of people or beings might communicate with each other. Beings?" Cale's voice sounded curious. Emma felt her cheeks warm. Again. "I know it sounds crazy, but I think humans might meet other intelligent life forms someday. If we do, we'll need people who can help us talk to them and understand them." "That doesn't sound crazy at all," Cale said, and Emma could hear something like surprise in his voice. "What makes you think we'll meet others?" "The universe is so big," Emma said, her voice getting excited. There have to be other intelligent species out there. Maybe they're already aware of us. Maybe they're wondering the same things we are. Kale was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice was softer. What would you say to them if you met them? Emma thought about this. I'd want to learn their language first. Real communication isn't just about words, you know. It's about understanding how someone thinks, what's important to them, how they see the world. I want to know their stories, their hopes, their fears, even if they were very different from humans. Especially then, Emma said firmly. The more different someone is from you, the more you can learn from them. Kale made a sound that might have been surprise or approval. Most people fear what they don't understand. Fear comes from not knowing, Emma said. But I think most beings, no matter how different, probably want the same basic things. Safety, happiness, someone to care about them. If you can find that common ground, you can build understanding. You speak as if you've thought about this a great deal, Emma laughed. Too much, probably. My professors think I'm wasting my time on science fiction, but I really believe it's possible. Your professors are wrong, Kale said quietly. It's not a waste of time at all. Something in his voice made Emma pause. He spoke with such certainty as if he knew something she didn't. Before she could ask what he meant, Jake called out from behind the counter. Emma, your usual Tuesday. Muffin is ready. Oh, thank you, Jake, Emma called back. She started to stand up, but Kale spoke first. I'll get it for you. You don't have to do that, Emma protested. I want to, Kale said simply. Emma heard him walk to the counter and return with her blueberry muffin. She noticed that his footsteps were still unusually quiet, as if he was much lighter than his deep voice suggested. Thank you, she said as he set the plate down. You're very kind. Kindness is rare where I come from, Kale said. And there was something sad in his voice. Emma wanted to ask more, but she sensed that this man carried heavy secrets. Instead, she broke her muffin in half and offered him a piece. I couldn't, Kale said. Please. It's the least I can do after you helped me. Kale took the muffin piece, though Emma noticed he didn't seem to eat it. They talked for another hour about books, music, and places Emma had never been. Kale was a good listener, asking thoughtful questions and sharing stories about distant lands that sounded almost too wonderful to be real. Emma finally had to leave for her afternoon class. She felt disappointed. She hadn't enjoyed talking to someone this much in a long time. Will you be here tomorrow? She asked as she gathered her things. Would you like me to be? Kale asked. Yes, Emma said honestly. I would. Then I'll be here, Kale promised as Emma walked toward the door with her white cane. She heard Kale's quiet voice behind her. Emma, she turned back. Yes? Thank you for the conversation. It's been enlightening, Emma smiled. Thank you for helping me with the coffee cup. As she left the cafe, Emma couldn't stop thinking about the mysterious stranger with the musical voice and the sad eyes she couldn't see. She didn't know that in the dark corner booth, Kale sat alone, staring at the half-eaten muffin in his hands, wondering how a simple act of kindness from a human girl had made him feel more alive than he had in centuries. Emma arrived at Luna's Café the next morning with a small flutter of excitement in her chest. She wondered if Kale would really be there like he promised. As she opened the door, the familiar chime rang out, and she immediately heard Jake's cheerful voice. Morning, Emma. Your new friend is already here? Emma smiled and made her way to her usual table. Sure enough, she could sense someone in the back corner booth. There was a warmth coming from that direction, and she could hear the quiet sound of breathing that she had noticed yesterday. Good morning, Kale, she called softly. Good morning, Emma, came his deep voice. Would you like to sit with me today? Emma felt her heart skip a little. I'd like that. She made her way carefully to the back booth, using her cane to navigate between the tables. Kale stood up as she approached, and she heard him move to help guide her to the seat across from him. Thanked you, she said, settling into the soft cushions. The booth was much more comfortable than her usual table. I ordered you a coffee, Kale said. I hope that's okay. I asked Jake what you usually drink. That's very thoughtful, Emma said, touched by his consideration. What about you? What do you like to drink? Coffee is fine, Kale said quietly. I don't need much, Emma tilted her head. Don't need much? Are you one of those people who doesn't eat breakfast? Something like that, Kale replied, and Emma could hear a small smile in his voice. They fell into easy conversation. Emma told Kale about her classes and her research on ancient languages. She was surprised by how much he seemed to know about old civilizations and forgotten ways of speaking. How do you know so much about history? Emma asked. Are you a teacher? Not exactly, Kale said. I've traveled quite a bit. I've seen many places and learned many things. That must be amazing, Emma said wistfully. I've never been anywhere except Seattle and a few places in Washington state. What's the most interesting place you've ever been? Kale was quiet for a long moment. There's a place far from here where the sky burns with colors you've never seen. The mountains are so tall they touch the stars and the air sings with ancient music. Emma leaned forward, fascinated. That sounds like poetry. Where is this place? Very far away, Kale said softly. Too far to visit easily. Emma noticed that Kale often gave answers like this, mysterious and vague. But instead of being frustrated, she found herself more curious about him. There was something about the way he spoke that made her think he was carrying secrets too big to share. Over the next few days, they met every morning at the same booth. Emma began to look forward to these conversations more than anything else in her day. Kale was unlike anyone she had ever met. He listened to her in a way that made her feel like her words really mattered. Tell me about your world, Kale said. One morning out of nowhere, my world? Emma laughed. You mean my life? Yes, what is it like to experience everything the way you do? Emma was surprised by the question. Most people were either too polite to ask about her blindness or too awkward to talk about it naturally. But Kale asked as if he genuinely wanted to understand. It's different, but not less, Emma said thoughtfully. I experience things through sound, touch, smell, and taste. Sometimes I think I notice things that other people miss because they're too focused on what they can see. What do you notice that others miss? Like right now, Emma said, smiling. I can tell that you're sitting very still, but your breathing gets faster when you're interested in something I'm saying. I can hear the way your voice changes when you're thinking about something far away. And there's something about the way you speak that makes me think you're not just from another country, but from somewhere completely different. Kale was silent for a long moment. You're very observant. I have to be, Emma said simply. It's how I understand the world around me. How do you picture things you've never seen? Kale asked. Emma thought about this. People describe things to me, and I build pictures in my mind using what I know. Like, I know what rough feels like and what smooth feels like, so when someone tells me about a rocky mountain or a calm lake, I can imagine the textures. I know what warm feels like and what cool feels like, so I can imagine sunshine and snow. What? About colors? Kale asked quietly. Colors are harder, Emma admitted. But I think of them as feelings or temperatures. Red is warm and strong, like anger or love. Blue is cool and peaceful, like calm water. Yellow is bright and happy, like laughter. What about black? Kale asked, and there was something strange in his voice. Black isn't empty like people think. Emma said, black is quiet and deep, like sleep, or like the feeling of being safe in a small space. It's not scary to me, it's just peaceful. She heard Kale take a deep breath. You have a beautiful way of seeing the world. Everyone sees the world differently, Emma said. That's what makes people interesting. As the days passed, Emma began to notice odd things about her new friend. He never seemed to eat anything, only ordered coffee that he barely touched. His skin was always very warm when their hands accidentally touched while reaching for things. He never seemed to get cold. Even when the café was chilly in the early morning. One day, Emma asked him directly, Kale, are you feeling okay? You never eat anything and you always feel like you have a fever. I'm fine, Kale said quickly. I just have a fast metabolism, and I ate before I came here. Emma didn't quite believe him, but she didn't want to pry. She was starting to care about this mysterious man, and she could tell that he was being careful about what he shared with her. "Do you have family?" Emma asked one morning. "Not in the way you mean," Cale said sadly. "I have colleagues. People who depend on me, but no one who cares about me as a person." "That sounds lonely," Emma said softly. "It is," Cale admitted. "I haven't had a real friend in a very long time." "Well, you have one now," Emma said, and she meant it. She heard Cale's breathing stop for a moment. "Emma," he said quietly, "what if you found out that someone you cared about was very different from what you thought? What if they had done things that would make you afraid of them?" Emma considered this carefully. "I think it would depend on who they are now, not who they used to be. People can change. And if they cared enough about me to worry about how I'd react, then they're probably not as bad as they think they are." "Even if they were dangerous? Are you dangerous, Cale?" Emma asked directly. Another long pause. "I could be," he said finally. "But are you dangerous to me?" "No," Cale said immediately. "Never to you." "Then that's what matters," Emma said simply. Far above the earth, on a huge spaceship hidden behind the moon, Commander Zara Blackscale paced back and forth in the command center. She was worried about her general. Cale Drakmore had been on Earth for 2 weeks now, and he should have reported back with invasion plans by now. "Sir," she said to the communication device, "the fleet is getting restless." "When do we begin the attack?" "Soon," came Cale's voice through the transmitter. "I need more time to study their defenses." "How much more time?" Zara asked. "You're the most feared general in 12 star systems. This should be a simple conquest." "Nothing about these humans is simple," Cale replied. "Give me another week." After the communication ended, Zara frowned. Something was wrong. General Drakmore had conquered 50 worlds without hesitation. Why was he taking so long with one small planet? Back in the cafe, Cale sat alone after Emma had left for her afternoon classes. He stared at the empty coffee cup in front of him, thinking about her words. She had said that people could change, that what mattered was who someone was now, not who they used to be. For 800 years, Cale had been a weapon of war. He had destroyed cities and conquered civilizations. His name was whispered in fear across the galaxy. But sitting in this small human cafe, listening to a blind girl talk about hope and friendship, he was beginning to remember what it felt like to be more than just a destroyer of worlds. Emma was teaching him something he had forgotten long ago. She was showing him that there could be beauty in small moments, joy in simple conversations, and meaning in caring about someone else's happiness. For the first time in centuries, General Cale Drakmore was beginning to understand what it meant to have something worth protecting instead of something to conquer. And that realization terrified him more than any battle he had ever fought. Emma woke up on Thursday morning, feeling worried. Max, her golden retriever guide dog, was missing. She had let him out into her apartment building's fenced yard the night before, just like she did every evening. But when she went to bring him back inside, he was gone. She had spent hours walking around her neighborhood, calling his name and asking neighbors if they had seen him. Max was more than just a guide dog to Emma. He was her companion, her helper, and her friend. Without him, she felt lost and afraid. Emma made her way to Luna's Café that morning, hoping that talking to Cale might help her feel better. Her white cane tapped nervously against the sidewalk as she walked. She kept listening for Max's familiar bark, but she only heard the usual city sounds. When she entered the café, she could barely hold back her tears. She made her way to the back booth where she knew Cale would be waiting. "Emma," Cale said soon as she sat down. "Something's wrong. I can hear it in your breathing. My dog is missing," Emma said, her voice shaking. "Max disappeared last night. I don't know what to do." Cale was quiet for a moment. "Tell me what happened," Emma explained. About letting Max out into the yard and finding the gate open when she went to get him. "He's never run away before," she said. "He's so well trained." "Something must have scared him, or maybe someone took him." "What does Max look like?" Cale asked. "He's a golden retriever, about 3 years old." "He has a blue collar with my phone?" number on it, and he wears a special harness that says guide dog on it. Cale stood up suddenly. I'll be right back, he said. Where are you going? Emma asked, surprised. I have some connections in the city, Cale said. People who might be able to help look for Max. Don't worry, Emma, we'll find him. Emma heard Cale's footsteps moving quickly toward the door. She sat alone in the booth, wrapping her hands around her coffee cup for warmth. She had never heard Cale sound so determined before. What Emma didn't know was that Cale had stepped outside the café and activated a small device hidden in his coat. He spoke in a language that no human had ever heard. Commander Blackscale, he said in the harsh, musical tones of his native tongue. General Drakmore, came Zara's voice through the communicator. Are you finally ready to begin the invasion? I need every stealth drone we have searching the city for a golden retriever. Cale said. There was a long pause. Sir, did you just say you want our military drones to look for a dog? Yes, send ground teams too. The animal is important to ... to my mission. General, with respect, we have an entire planet to conquer. We don't have time to look for lost pets. Cale's voice became cold and commanding, the voice that had struck fear into enemies across the galaxy. Commander, you will do as I order, or you will find yourself floating in space without a suit? Find that dog? Yes, sir, Zara replied quickly, though Cale could hear the confusion in her voice. Within minutes, dozens of invisible alien drones were scanning Seattle with advanced sensors. Alien soldiers in human disguises began searching parks, alleys, and streets. The most powerful military force in the galaxy was looking for one lost golden retriever. 2 hours later, Cale returned to the café. Emma was still sitting in the booth, looking miserable. I found him, Cale said simply. Emma's head shot up. What? Where? He's at the animal shelter on Pine Street. Someone found him wandering downtown this morning and brought him in. Emma stood up so quickly she almost knocked over her coffee. How did you find out so fast? I told you I have connections, Cale said. Come on, I'll drive you there. You don't have to do that, Emma said, but she was already reaching for her cane. I want to, Cale said gently. They left the café together, and Cale led Emma to a car parked outside. Emma noticed that the car was completely silent when it started, and it drove more smoothly than any vehicle she had ever been in. What kind of car is this? She asked. It's foreign, Cale said. Very advanced technology. At the animal shelter, Emma was reunited with Max. The golden retriever jumped up and licked her face, his tail wagging so hard his whole body shook. Emma hugged him tightly, tears of relief running down her cheeks. Thank you, she said to Cale. I don't know how you found him so quickly, but thank you. I'm just glad he's safe, Cale said, and Emma could hear genuine relief in his voice. That evening, Emma invited Cale to her apartment for dinner. It was the first time she had asked him to spend time with her outside of the café. Cale seemed surprised by the invitation, but he accepted. Emma's apartment was small but comfortable. She moved around it easily, knowing where everything was. She made pasta and salad while Cale sat at her kitchen table, strangely quiet. You're very independent, Cale observed as he watched her cook. I have to be, Emma said. But it's nice to have help sometimes. Like today with Max. During dinner, Emma noticed that Cale barely touched his food, just like at the café. She also noticed that he seemed nervous about something. Cale, she said carefully, can I ask you something? Of course. Who are you really? Cale was quiet, for so long that Emma began to worry she had offended him. What do you mean? He finally asked. You never eat. You always feel feverish. You have connections that can find a lost dog in 2 hours in a city of millions of people. You drive a car. That doesn't make any sound. You know things about history and places that don't seem to exist on any map I've ever heard of. Emma paused, then continued gently. I don't care if you're running from something or hiding something. You've been kind to me, and that's what matters. But I can tell you're not telling me the whole truth about who you are. Cale stood up abruptly and walked to Emma's living room window. Emma, he said quietly, what if I told you that everything you believe about the world is about to change? What do you mean? What if I told you that your dream of meeting other intelligent beings is about to come true, but not in the way you hoped? Emma felt a chill run down her spine. Kale, you're scaring me. What if I told you that beings from other worlds are already here, and they're not here to be friends? Emma's heart began to beat faster. What are you trying to tell me? Kale turned away from the window and faced her, though she couldn't see the anguish on his face. Emma, I need to show you something. But if I do, everything between us will change forever. Show me what? The truth, Kale said simply, about who I am and why I'm really here. Emma felt afraid, but her curiosity was stronger than her fear. Okay, she said quietly. Kale walked over to her and knelt down beside her chair. Emma, I need you to trust me completely. Can you do that? Yes, Emma whispered. Close your eyes and don't be afraid, Kale said softly. No matter what happens, remember that I would never hurt you. Emma felt Kale's warm hands on her temples. There was a strange, tingling sensation, and then suddenly, her world exploded with light and color and images she had never seen before. She could see the room around her, see the furniture and the walls and the ceiling. She could see Max lying on his bed in the corner. And then she could see outside her window, beyond the city, beyond the Earth itself. She was seeing space, real space, with stars and planets and the black emptiness between them. And there, hanging in the darkness, was a fleet of massive ships, unlike anything humans had ever built. Oh my God, Emma whispered, her voice shaking, but the most shocking sight was yet to come. She turned to look at Kale, and instead of the human man she had imagined, she saw a creature of incredible beauty and terror. He was tall and powerful, with skin that looked like black metal and eyes that glowed like fire. Wings folded against his back, and when he spoke, she could see sharp teeth in his mouth. Emma, he said in his familiar voice, I am General Kale Drakmore of the Vorthic Empire. I came here to plan the conquest of your world. Emma tried to scream, but no sound came out. The images were too much, too overwhelming. She had wished to see the stars her whole life, but this was not how she had imagined it would happen. I'm sorry, Kale said, and his voice was full of pain. I'm so sorry, Emma. The strange sight faded away, and Emma was blind again, sitting in her chair with tears streaming down her face. She was shaking all over, and she could barely breathe. Take me home, she whispered. Please, just take me home and leave me alone. Emma. Please let me explain, Kale said desperately. No, Emma said, her voice stronger now. You lied to me. Everything was a lie. Not everything, Kale said quietly. My feelings for you are real. Our friendship is real. You're here to invade Earth. Emma said, her voice filled with horror. You're here to hurt people. Yes, Kale admitted. But Emma, meeting you has changed everything. I don't want to hurt anyone anymore. Get out, Emma said, standing up and backing away from him. Please, just get out. Kale stood up slowly. If that's what you want, it is. Emma heard him walk to the door. Before he opened it, he turned back to her. Emma, he said softly, I know you can't forgive me for lying to you. But please believe me when I say that knowing you has been the best thing that has happened to me in 800 years. The door closed quietly behind him, and Emma collapsed onto her couch, sobbing. Max came over and put his head on her lap. Sensing her distress, Emma had finally met an intelligent being from another world, just like she had always dreamed. But instead of the beautiful first contact she had imagined, she had discovered that her only friend was part of an invasion force that wanted to destroy everything she loved. For 3 days, Emma didn't leave her apartment. She sat on her couch with Max beside her, trying to understand what had happened. Every time she thought about Kale's true appearance, she felt sick to her stomach. But what made her feel worse was remembering how kind he had been to her, how much she had enjoyed talking with him. She kept thinking about their conversations in the café. Had any of it been real? Did he actually care about her, or was she just part of some plan to invade Earth? Emma felt stupid for trusting him, but she also felt confused because her heart still wanted to believe that their friendship had meant something. On the 4th day, Emma made a decision. She couldn't hide in her apartment forever. If aliens were Really planning to attack Earth? Someone needed to know about it. She remembered reading about a scientist named Dr. Lisa Monroe, who worked for the government and studied reports of strange sightings and alien encounters. Emma used her computer to find Dr. Monroe's contact information. It took several phone calls and a lot of explaining, but finally, Dr. Monroe agreed to meet with her. They met at a small restaurant downtown. Dr. Monroe was a woman in her 50s with a calm, serious voice. She listened carefully as Emma told her everything that had happened. "You're telling me that you've been having daily conversations with an alien general who is planning to invade Earth?" Dr. Monroe asked. "I know it sounds crazy," Emma said, "but he showed me things. I could see their ships in space, and I could see what he really looks like." Dr. Monroe was quiet for a long moment. "Emma, I'm going to tell you something that very few people know. We've been aware of alien presence near Earth for several weeks. Our satellites have detected strange energy readings, and we've had reports from other people who claim to have seen unusual things." Emma felt her heart sink. "So, it's all true?" "We think so," Dr. Monroe said gently. "Several world governments are quietly preparing for the possibility of an invasion, but we don't know when it might happen or what their plans are." "Cale said he was here to plan the conquest," Emma said quietly. "And you said he seemed to be having second thoughts?" Emma nodded. "He said that meeting me changed everything, but I don't know if I can believe him." "Emma," Dr. Monroe said carefully, "would you be willing to help us?" "Help you how?" "If this alien general really cares about you, you might be our only chance to prevent a war. Could you try talking to him again?" Emma felt scared at the thought of seeing Cale again. "I don't know if I can face him." "I understand," Dr. Monroe said, "but you might be the only person who can reach him. Think about it." Meanwhile, on the alien ship hidden behind the moon, General Cale Drakmore was facing his own crisis. He sat alone in his quarters, staring out at the stars, unable to focus on his duties. Commander Zara Blackscale had been asking for invasion orders every day, and the other ships in the fleet were getting impatient. Zara entered his room without knocking, something she had never done before. "General," she said firmly, "we need to talk." Cale didn't turn around. "What is it, Commander?" "Sir, the fleet commanders are starting to question your leadership. It's been 3 weeks since we arrived at Earth, and you still haven't given us a plan of attack." "I'm still gathering information," Cale said quietly. "What information?" Zara demanded. "We've scanned their defenses. We know their technology. One human planet should be easy to conquer." "What's really going on?" Cale finally turned to face his second-in-command. Zara was also Vorthek, with the same dragon-like appearance as Cale, but her scales were dark red instead of black. She had served under him for 300 years, and she had never seen him hesitate before. "Commander," Cale said slowly, "what if we're wrong about conquest being the only way?" Zara stared at him in shock. "Sir, are you asking me to question 8 centuries of Vorthek military strategy? I'm asking you to consider that there might be other options. General, our people are dying. Our homeworld is becoming uninhabitable. We need new planets to survive, and we've always taken what we need by force. It's the Vorthek way." "Maybe the Vorthek way is wrong," Cale said quietly. Zara stepped backward as if he had struck her. "General, I think you need to remember who you are. You are the most feared warrior in 12-star systems. You have conquered 50 worlds without mercy. You are not someone who hesitates or shows weakness." "What if being feared isn't the same as being strong?" Cale asked. "Sir, with respect, you're talking like one of them." "Like a human," Cale turned back to the window. "Maybe that's not such a bad thing." Zara left his quarters, deeply troubled. She had never seen her general like this before. Something on Earth had changed him, and she didn't understand what or how. Back on Earth, Emma had spent 2 more days thinking about Dr. Monroe's request. Finally, she decided to return to Luna's Café. She wasn't sure if Cale would be there, but she needed to find out. When she entered the café, she immediately sensed the familiar presence in the back corner booth. Her heart started beating faster as she made her way over to him. Double quotes. "Hello, Emma." Kale said softly as she approached. "Hello, Kale," she replied, sitting down across from him. They sat in silence for several minutes. Emma could hear that Kale's breathing was different now, sadder and more tired than before. "I didn't think you would come back," Kale said finally. "I didn't think I would either," Emma admitted. "I'm sorry for lying to you," Kale said. "I'm sorry for deceiving you about who I am." Emma took a deep breath. "Kale, I need to ask you something, and I need you to tell me the truth." "I'll try." "When you were talking to me all those days, getting to know me, becoming my friend, was any of it real? Or was I just part of your mission?" Kale was quiet for so long that Emma began to think he wouldn't answer. When he finally spoke, his voice was full of pain. "Emma, for 800 years I have been a weapon. I have destroyed cities and conquered worlds. I have never had a friend, never cared about anyone except as a tool to be used or an enemy, to be defeated." He paused, then continued. "When I met you, you treated me like I was just a person. You talked to me about books and dreams and hopes for the future. You shared your food with me and worried about my health. For the first time in centuries, someone saw me as more than just a destroyer. But you were still planning to invade," Emma said. "Yes," Kale admitted. "At first I was. But every day I spent with you, that plan became harder to imagine. You showed me what humans are really like. You're not just another species to be conquered. You're people with dreams and kindness and the ability to see good in others even when they don't deserve it." Emma felt tears starting to form in her eyes. "So what happens now?" "I don't know," Kale said honestly. "My fleet is getting impatient. My second-in-command thinks I've become weak. If I don't give invasion orders soon, they might replace me with someone who will." "What do you want to do?" Emma asked. "I want to find a way for my people to survive without destroying yours," Kale said. "But I don't know if that's possible." Emma reached across the table and found Kale's hand. His skin was still warm, still felt strange and different, but she didn't pull away. "Kale," she said gently, "tell me about your people. Why do you need to invade other worlds?" "Our home planet is dying," Kale explained. "The sun is getting colder, and the air is becoming poison. We have ships, but not enough to carry our entire population to safety. We've always survived by taking what we need from others." "How many of your people are there?" "About 50,000 left," Kale said sadly. "We used to number in the millions, but war and the dying planet have reduced us to this." Emma thought about this. "Kale, Earth has 7 billion people. We have cities and countries that could easily hold 50,000 more people, especially if they brought advanced technology to share. You think humans would welcome us?" Kale asked, sounding surprised. "Not all of them," Emma said honestly. "Some would be afraid. But many would want to help, especially if they understood that you were refugees, not conquerors." "My people don't know how to ask for help," Kale said. "We only know how to take what we need." "Then maybe it's time to learn a new way, Emma," said Kale squeezed her hand gently. "Emma, even if I wanted to try your idea, I'm not sure my people would listen to me. They expect me to be strong and ruthless." "You are strong," Emma said firmly. "But real strength isn't about destroying things. Real strength is about protecting what you care about and finding solutions that help everyone." "You have more faith in me than I have in myself," Kale said quietly. "That's what friends do," Emma said simply. "They believe in each other." Kale felt something he hadn't experienced in centuries. Hope. Maybe Emma was right. Maybe there was another way, a path that didn't require him to destroy the world that had given him the first real friendship of his long life. But even as hope grew in his heart, Kale knew that convincing his people to change 8 centuries of tradition would be the hardest battle he had ever fought. Emma spent the next week working with Dr. Monroe to prepare a proposal for the world governments. They created a plan that would allow the Vorthic people to settle on Earth peacefully in exchange for sharing their advanced technology. Emma knew it was a long shot, but she believed it could work if both sides were willing to try. Meanwhile, Kale was facing growing pressure from his fleet. Commander Zara had called a meeting of all the ship captains, and Kale could sense their frustration and anger. "General Drakmore," said Captain Thane, commander of the second largest ship, "we've been waiting for 3 weeks. Our fuel reserves are running low, and our people are getting desperate. When do we attack?" Kale stood at the head of the conference table, looking at the faces of his officers. These were warriors who had followed him across the galaxy, who had trusted him to lead them to a new home. Now he had to ask them to consider something completely different. "I have a different proposal," Kale said calmly. "Different how?" Zara asked suspiciously. "What if we didn't attack? What if we asked for help instead?" The room erupted in angry voices. Several captains stood up, shouting that Kale had lost his mind. Captain Thane slammed his fist on the table. "General, the Vorthak. Do not beg," he said angrily. "We take what we need to survive." "And where has that gotten us?" Kale asked quietly. "We're down to our last 50,000 people. We're refugees running from a dying world. Maybe it's time to try something new." "You want us to surrender to a species that doesn't even know we exist?" another captain asked. "I want us to survive," Kale said firmly. "And I've learned that humans might be willing to help us if we approach them the right way." Zara stood up, her red scales gleaming under the ship's lights. "General, you've been compromised by contact with the humans. I call for a vote of no." "Confidence," the other captains murmured their agreement. Kale realized that he was about to lose command of his own fleet. "Very well," he said calmly. "But give me 24 hours to prove that my way can work. If I fail, you can proceed with the invasion under Commander Blackscale's leadership." The captains agreed, though reluctantly. Kale had bought himself. One day, to prevent a war, he contacted Emma immediately and asked her to meet him at the café. When she arrived, he explained the situation. "They're going to attack tomorrow if I can't convince them there's another way," Kale said desperately. "Then we need to move fast," Emma said. "Dr. Monroe has been working with government officials. She thinks she can arrange a meeting, but it has to be today." Within hours, Emma found herself in a secure government facility outside Seattle. Dr. Monroe had gathered representatives from several countries, including General Patricia Hayes from the U.S. military and Ambassador Shun Wei from China. "Miss Carter," General Hayes said, "Dr. Monroe tells us you've been in contact with the leader of this alien force." "Yes," Emma said nervously. "His name is Kale, and he's trying to prevent an invasion." "And you trust him?" Ambassador Chun asked. Skeptically, Emma thought about this carefully. "I trust that he doesn't want to hurt anyone anymore. His people are desperate refugees from a dying world. They're not evil, just afraid." "Even if that's true," General Hayes said, "how do we know? This isn't some kind of trick?" "Because I know him," Emma said simply. "I've talked with him every day for weeks. I've seen him struggle with what his people expect him to do versus what he believes is right." Dr. Monroe leaned forward. "Emma, would he be willing to meet with U.S. directly?" "I think so," Emma said. "But he's taking a huge risk. If his own people think he's betraying them, they might kill him." The government officials exchanged glances. This was unlike any first contact scenario they had ever imagined. "Oh, right," General Hayes said finally. "Set up the meeting." That evening, in a small conference room in the same government facility, the most important meeting in human history took place. Kale arrived alone, using his holographic disguise to appear human until he was safely inside the room, when he dropped the disguise. Several of the officials gasped. Even though they had been briefed, seeing an 8-foot-tall dragon-like being was still shocking. "I am General Kale Drakmore," he said in his deep, resonant voice. "I come here hoping to find a peaceful solution for both our peoples." Ambassador Chun was the first to speak. "General, we understand your people need a new home. But surely you can understand our concern about being invaded." "I do understand," Kale replied. "And I want you to know that I will do everything in my power to prevent that invasion." "What exactly are you proposing?" General Hayes asked. "My people have advanced technology that could benefit Earth greatly," Kale explained. "Medical treatments that could cure diseases. Energy sources that don't pollute your environment, transportation that could help you explore space. In exchange, we would ask for small areas of land where we could build settlements for our refugees. How? Do we know your people would honor such an agreement? Dr. Monroe asked. Because I would personally guarantee it, Cale said. Any Vorthak who broke the peace would answer to me. Emma spoke up. The Vorthak aren't like humans. They have a very strong honor system. If their leader gives his word, they will follow it. The negotiations continued for hours. Finally, a basic agreement was reached. The Vorthak would be allowed to establish 3 small settlements in remote areas of different countries. In return, they would share their medical and environmental technology and help Earth prepare for future contact with other alien species, but the hardest part was still ahead. Cale had to convince his own people to accept this plan instead of invasion. The next morning, Cale stood before his fleet commanders once again. This time Emma was with him, though she remained in the background. I have negotiated a peace treaty with the human governments, Cale announced. The room exploded. In angry shouts, Zara stood up, her eyes blazing. You had no right to negotiate without our approval, she said furiously. I had every right as your general, Cale replied calmly. And I believe this is our best chance for survival. Survival as slaves, Captain Thane spat. Survival as equals, Cale corrected. The humans are offering us homes, not chains. And, what happens when they decide they don't want us anymore? Another captain asked. Emma stepped forward, her voice shaking but determined. Then you'll still have friends who will stand up for you. The Vorthak officers stared at the small human, woman who had dared to speak in their war council. My name is Emma Carter, she continued. I'm the human who became friends with your general. I've seen what your people are capable of, and I've seen what humans are capable of. We're both species that care about our families and want to protect. The people we love, we don't have to be enemies. Zara looked at Emma with suspicion. Human, how do we know your people won't turn against us when they realize how powerful we are? Because that's not who we are, Emma said simply. Humans help refugees, it's what we do. We're not perfect, and some people will be afraid at first. But most humans believe in helping others who need help. Cale watched as his officers considered Emma's words. Slowly, some of the anger left their faces. General, Zara said finally, if we agree to this plan and it fails, our people will die. Commander, Cale replied gently, if we don't try this plan, we'll lose more than our lives. We'll lose our souls. The vote was close, but the peace treaty was accepted. Over the following weeks, the first Vorthak refugees arrived on Earth. The integration wasn't always smooth, and there were problems and misunderstandings. But Emma worked as a translator and cultural bridge, helping both species learn to live together. 6 months later, Emma sat in Luna's café with Cale, just like they had in the early days of their friendship. But now their relationship had grown into something deeper and more complex. Do you ever regret it? Emma asked as she sipped her coffee. Regret what? Cale replied, finally drinking his own coffee instead of just pretending to. Giving up being a feared general to become a refugee advocate. Cale smiled, something he had learned to do from watching humans. Emma, for 800 years I was feared across the galaxy, but I was also alone. Now I have something I never had before. What's that? A purpose that makes me proud instead of ashamed. And friends who care about me for who I am, not what I can destroy. Emma reached across the table and took his warm hand in hers. Well, you'll always have at least one friend who believes in. You? Just one? Cale asked, pretending to be hurt. Emma laughed. Okay, maybe a few more. Jake still makes you free coffee, and Max has decided you're acceptable. As if summoned by his name, Max trotted over from his spot by Emma's chair and put his head on Cale's knee. The former general, who had once commanded fleets across the stars, gently petted the golden retriever and smiled. Outside the cafe windows, the city of Seattle went about its daily business. Most people had no idea that some of their new neighbors were refugees from a dying world far among the stars. But in Luna's cafe, a blind human woman and an alien dragon sat drinking coffee together. Proof that friendship could bridge any gap and that understanding was always possible between beings who cared enough to try. The future was still uncertain, and there would be more challenges ahead. But for the first time in centuries, both species had hoped that they could build something better together than either could achieve alone.